Welcome to the Amateur's Advantage. I'm Laura Ashley, a Grand Prix dressage trainer and gold medalist rider, here to share the tools and principles that help riders and horses work in harmony no matter your discipline. Each week, I sit down with amateur riders, pro trainers, and equestrian professionals from every corner of the horse world to talk about the real stuff. Training struggles, mindset shifts, breakthroughs in the saddle, and how classical dressage can make us all better horsemen and women. Think of this as your tack room talk, your post-lesson debrief, and your barn family between rides. Let's get into it. Okay, we are here for our first podcast for Laura Ashley Dressage, and I'm with Isa. And Isa was my working student. How many years ago was that now?
About 3, give or take.
Okay, and now you're running your own business here in Wellington. Yes. What's your business name?
It's Bieniecka Dressage.
And today we are talking about training difficult horses and managing your fear around it, with the topic being if your horse is going forward, they can't rear, and if their head's up, they can't buck. So you've been bringing some of your training horses to me for lessons lately, and it's been a little bit of a mindset shift for you, because at first it was kind of managing the chaos, and you're like, if I can just control it, then I'll survive it and I'll be okay. And now we're getting to the point where I'm like, you're basically fine. We need to find that like freely forward feeling and be like, here, you're safe, stretch, go forward. And like open up the frame and like, no, you don't have to be stuck here. Like, I want your throat latch open and I want you to pull the highest point. And there was definitely a time and a place where it's like, okay, stay alive first and then we'll work on the outline after that. But first stay alive, and then in like 5 strides we can deal with how we want the horse to carry itself.
I felt like a lot of it came from learning what it's like to just sit there and ride and not fall versus training and actually fixing the issue, as opposed to, okay, I stayed on, let's just pretend it didn't happen and move on, or contain the chaos, or just have him go behind the leg and, you know, try and micromanage it from there, as opposed to, okay, forward and out, maybe not necessarily pretty, but our next ride, the issue is much more managed, controlled, and trained.
That makes sense. Yeah, so with your one horse, you're like, okay, this feels like garbage. It looks like a giraffe right now. And the horse is like hollow and its nose is sticking out. And you're like, this is miserable. Like, I hate this feeling. I'm like, I know, I don't really care about how you feel. Just keep riding forward and stop fussing with your hands. And your instinct was like, but it's icky. And if I could just like shape it a little, then it would be better. But then you said on ride 2, you're like, okay, I see where we were going with it. So I think one thing with our training is that we get caught in dressage is supposed to be pretty, and training isn't always pretty. The final product is pretty, hopefully. Some scores under 60%, but, you know, things happen. But it's supposed to be like, wow, isn't that elegant and harmonious?
Yeah.
But the in-between getting there doesn't always go that way. Yeah. And so sometimes we have to go through those icky phases when we're retraining what we want to have the new baseline to be. And so we have to like shift and break those old patterns that got us to a certain level, but now they've plateaued our training. And I feel like that's where you came in to me, that you're like, I can manage this. I can get this around the arena. I'm like, cool, but you're riding a horse that has 8 for gates. So why are you getting a low 60% score? You should be getting 7s and 8s on your movements, because you've got this beautiful horse and you're a beautiful rider. So we need to kind of redo the foundational work so that then we can build stronger. What do they say? It's like building a house on a foundation of sand, like the whole thing's gonna collapse.
Right.
And I feel like that's kind of where the start was with these retrain horses that you had, that it's like, okay, well, you have this beautiful house, this beautiful horse, but it's foundational work, it's basics, it's fundamentals of the training pyramid had like Swiss cheese holes in it that you have to now fill.
Exactly. So even when it comes to rides, like, okay, well, his head is in the air. Right. But then the next ride, I come back exactly a week later, you know, he's not trying to curl. He's not trying to duck his head under and pick his haunches up to buck. he's moving forward. He's a lot more fluid and making him a lot more rideable.
Mm-hmm.
It was so much simpler as soon as we got that figured out, and it came so much from like the mental block as a rider of, oh my, like, you know, when the horse's head is low and controlled, you feel it feels a lot better. Their back is up, you know.
You had him like in your hand before,
yeah,
where you're like, I can tell if he's gonna like do something, and then I was like, no, like keep your hands forward, be light, give him space, and now we've got you, go figure, riding from the hind leg to the bridle instead of from the bridle and then managing the energy. So I think now we've made that transition where you're really riding the hind legs to the hand instead of managing everything here to control the chaos on that one.
Instead of thinking the energy almost going back, like from the bridle, from the front end again, then we figure out what's going on back there. It's coming opposite.
Good. Yeah, we've totally rewired that one. And then with your other horse, he goes beautifully forward, and sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh.
He's lovely. He's done the pre-St. George, but you know, apparently like one long side is just chaos.
I think the funniest thing is what you thought forward was versus what actual forward is.
Oh, yeah.
He's so big and so powerful that, like, I don't blame you. But you're like, I'm going so fast. And he's like, la, 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 la. He's
just complete ballerina when you're riding a 17th three-hand horse. It just feels, all of it feels big.
It is. And, like, your seat has to really swing with that big of a canter. But you're like, I swear I'm going so fast. I'm like, well, you're going big and beautiful and lofty, but the hind leg is actually slow, and he's not sharp off your leg. He's eventually sort of going slightly more forward. But I'm like, girl, that's not even a working canter. Like, you got to go. And so then we spent that whole week on like, okay, Isa, what should you do? And you're like, well, first I was like, no. What should you do? You're like, and her friend's over in the corner going, gee. Oh, they're both looking at exclamation mark.
They're both looking at me, and it's like, it's one word, and I'm like, what?
Go! Like, just go forward. And so, but you did so good with your homework that week that we put you on the circle first, because on the straight line, it was like, okay, at least with a little bit of the bend, that kind of helps you feel like there's some level of control, or that like if you needed to do something to stay alive, like you could turn a little tighter or touch your inside rein, versus when you're just like booking it down alongside and you're like, Jesus, take the wheel. Like, oh gosh, I hope this works out. And so like on the circle, I think you kind of got your confidence up.
Yeah.
And then you were able to be like, okay, we're going to push a little. I was like, great. I saw you went to like a lengthening. So that's better than working canter. But you're riding a pre-St. George horse. So where's your medium and where's your extension? Like, book it. Let's go.
Yeah. It was definitely like, you know, just staying on the circle, almost like figuring it out. Like when he's like a little bit wide or a little bit tense, staying on the circle honestly helps to just find that rhythm and momentum. And as soon as like, you know, my circle, it wasn't a dressage circle. It wasn't 20 meters. It wasn't 15. It wasn't anything specific. It was just a circle that progressively started getting maybe a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit closer to that spot where he's like, I don't know, where I can then duck out, figure myself out, and then come back to it. And as soon as he felt reliable, at least in between my legs and my hips, his head, not the utmost concern in that moment.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, he feels a little bit more reliable. Let's egg him on just a little bit more and then try that long side, as opposed to like, oh my God, please don't do it. Please don't do it. Please don't do it. Maybe if I flex him over here, he won't be able to do it. Okay, please don't, please don't, please don't.
Yeah.
And then as soon as like, okay, there's a rhythm, there's a momentum, I'm not over flexing him, but I didn't completely forget about my right or left rein at the time. I have this good rhythm going where it felt comfortable to go down the long side. Granted, there was an attempt, but the more that I use my leg and my seat properly, as opposed to like, okay, it's fine, whatever you want to do, just brake, don't do it. He went down it. And the more and more we worked through that throughout our lesson, he eventually did get the idea of like, okay, well, that's not going to work.
Yeah. And that was the one time I gave you permission to ride an oval, because it's like, okay, you do your circle here, but then if you're feeling brave, you go just like a little bit straight. Okay, good. You live that far. Now do your circle again. Okay. Now you're going to go straight for like 10 strides. Okay. Now you're going to come back here, instead of feeling like, I have to do it and I'm going for it this time. Knowing that you had permission to bail out if you felt his body change, I think helped you to feel more confident versus like, I have to do this and like getting really tense about making it happen, knowing that you were willing to compromise in some places but not others. You weren't willing to compromise on the forward, but you were willing to compromise on turning sooner. But you weren't willing to compromise on diving through my inside leg, but you would like, oh, I feel you getting tense. Here, buddy, let's take you away from the scary thing and then build your confidence and then we'll come back to it.
Right. I had a thought.
Oh, that's okay.
It was definitely a mental challenge because when you're thinking about pushing a horse forward, like all this energy is moving forward, you feel like he's just gonna use it to go up. And what really helped was switching my mindset from like, okay, I'm forcing all this energy forward, as opposed to like anatomically, he won't be able to stand up if both hind legs aren't on the ground at the same time.
Literally. Yeah.
Right.
Like they have to plant 2 feet in order to pop up in the air.
Exactly. So like he'll like do like these hops, almost like these like still technically cantering.
It's kind of porpoise like. He's just like blew.
Exactly, and you feel him going into it, and instead of like ducking out and like maybe break, maybe this, maybe that, it's that okay, go. Go into the energy, take it, go.
Yeah.
And it's like that mental challenge of, oh my God, this feels so backwards, which is like another part of riding versus training, like where you're training in that moment to make the split decision of go. Like go into it. Like this horse feels a little crazy, kind of uncontrollable. I know that he'll go up in the air with me, but I want more.
Yeah.
Where it was that huge mental block for me, at least in the beginning, working with a horse that just like wants to go hop, hop, and woo up in the air like he's Spirit.
At least he's pretty.
At least he's pretty when he does it. And woo up in the air like he's Spirit, and like taking that energy and pushing it even more forward and getting through it instead of around it.
Yeah, because when you're in a fear state, which like it's scary when your horse is rearing or bucking.
Oh yeah, especially when your horse is huge.
Yeah, you want to, internally you're like, I just want to make it stop. Like if I could just stand still and like catch my breath. And there was some of that with your riding. Whenever you get nervous, you get really chatty and then you talk a little faster and then you're having like this whole conversation going on and like, you're good, man. You're fine.
Stop talking, just ride.
Well, we did get you saying good boy though. So that was improvement. So instead of like this nervous what should I do chatter, last time it was like good boy, you've got this, you're really smart, you're super brave, you can get through it. Yeah, that's right. Oh, it's okay. Just keep on going. And you were like very reassuring with your tone instead of like building up inside of you.
Yeah, it's strange when like you only take lessons like once a week, and where it's like, okay, like at home I'm talking to my horse, and then I come into the ring with my trainer and I'm like just listened on every single word she's saying, where I don't want to say something and miss something. Where it's like I'm so laser focused, and then she's asking, why aren't you talking? And I'm like, what?
Yeah. I feel like it's a fine line between like you're here to listen and take instruction, but also what you're doing at home is working to a degree. So don't just be a robot and go through the motions that the trainer gives you. Use what you already have, and then I'm there to manage the quality control. I don't need to tell you to add a circle or change direction. You know how to do a balanced warm up and ride with your horse and give appropriate breaks. I'm there to help you problem solve through the tricky spots and then manage the quality of the gaits and the frame as you go.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a little strange going into it. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's the brain for you management most of the time. That like if I can get you in the right headspace, then you're a rock star. But like it's scary when a powerful horse does something unexpected. And you have to be so nonchalant about it. But fortunately, you do have a good seat. And you've worked really hard to establish that. So if they do something, you know that you're athletic enough and quick enough that you can stay in balance. So if the horse would rear, you wouldn't have a good day. But you would be able to like grab a chunk of mane and lean forward so you didn't tip off the back. Or if the horse did buck, you would be loose enough in your hips that you could kind of go with the motion and then get right back into the canter. And not everybody has that skill set. So as a coach, there's definitely some respect for those limitations too. Like If you were 80 years old with a bad hip, I might not be like, keep going faster down the long side. I might be like, okay, so we're going to get off in lunge, and then maybe I'll get back on, or maybe we'll do some groundwork, and then we'll come back to that concept. So respecting your limitations is still important. You can't just be like, I'm going to be tough and force myself through this. And like, there is a human element of fear, and I have to have this much respect for it, at least in your case. In other people's, it's like this much respect. I can push a bit and be like, I'm sorry, you're a professional now. You need to suck it up and figure it out.
Taking lessons as a working student versus a professional are a little bit different.
Yeah, my standards for you may have gone up a little bit. I'm
just
like,
a hair.
Yeah, but you've rised, whatever, one of those words to the occasion. Now that you're able to take a bit more, but I still have to keep you in that like, you're safe here brain space, because if I push you into your flight brain and the horses in their flight brain, things go downhill really quick. So I kind of have to find moments where I'm a drill sergeant and be like, I don't care, go forward, put your leg on. I know it's scary, do it anyways. And then I find other moments where I'm like, you made it, sweetheart. Good job. Okay, you're fine now. Okay, you made it. We're going to walk. We're going to breathe. We're going to talk about it. And then we're going to come again. So it's keeping that balance of like, where is your rider's threshold in their fear that they're functional? Because your brain shuts down and like all you hear is like buzzing and static when you get upset.
100%. Like that one like buffering computer noise, that's my brain when I just don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my head right now.
I feel like that's probably my biggest challenge as a rider, just like completely like overthinking, or just like noise. Just like, I don't know, what do I do now? It's this, it's that, but what about this answer?
Yeah.
That's probably been like my biggest transition to riding so many different horses at once, and them all having a variety of different issues, as opposed to like one that I have right now will like to curl his neck and buck. The other one that I have will like to go behind the leg and rear up, where it's like completely two different things.
Right. You ride them two different ways.
Yeah.
And so knowing, like, you have a lot of tools in your tool belt for how to train a horse, but knowing which one to pick out for that scenario is tricky. And it's always evolving and changing. What might work one week might change the next, because they're looking for that evasion. They're not necessarily like, I'm going to trick her and I'm going to find a way to not do whatever she's asking me. But horses are trying to find the easiest way to satisfy our requests and preserve energy. Like, that's how they're designed to survive, is like, okay, well, if I do it this way, then I can conserve myself. So if I have to like run away from a lion later this afternoon, I'll be all right. And so they're not being disgruntled employees most of the time about our aids, but they might be like, okay, well, I can't get away with what I want that way, but maybe if I try it this way. So we have to keep evolving with the horse and go, all right, well, that tool was working, but now it's not. What else can I try? And a lot of it comes down to the conformation of the horse too, that if they're built that they're more comfortable traveling on the forehand, or if they're a little bit short in their stride, or if they have trouble engaging their core, whatever. There's like a million and one factors that go into it. But reading what their body type is, and then what their training holes are, and then creating a plan that's going to take in consideration them as an equine athlete and what's going to serve them best to develop them. So like with your one horse, I'm like, okay, he's amazingly uphill and beautiful, but he wants to be a little bit too compacted. And so I'm like, you can open up his frame, you can let him longer, you can let him stretch a little bit more, because he wants to live short. The other horse has a tendency to live a little bit downhill. So we're thinking like, okay, how can we get you to shift the balance and carry yourself a little bit more up and opening your frame versus pile driving into your shoulders? So then even your exercises vary based on that and the scenario and their mood that day and what's spooky over in the corner. So you're having to go through like your Rolodex of everything you've ever learned about dressage and hope to pick out the right note card to handle the situation fast enough. And I think that's what happens when you start chatting at me in your walk breaks, where you're like processing out loud and you're like, okay, so I'm supposed to do exactly what you said, but then also, should I do it maybe like this instead or different? Because I'm like, no, just do the thing that I said that worked really well. And I said, wow, you look amazing, and your horse does too. You're like, but I could also. But it worked. Just stick with the plan. But it is good that you have those extra tools in case that between your lesson 1 week and the next you get in a pinch.
Lots can happen in a week.
You can always pick up the phone and call me.
I have sent you paragraphs before, like, guess what I did today?
Most of the time it's a good thing, but every once in a while I'm like, we're practicing that why? We're showing first level. Why are you doing tempi changes? This is not in the test. Fundamentals, my dear. Focus on the basics. And I think it's sometimes easy to get caught up when you have a really cool horse like you do and be like, there's so many party tricks. I could try all this stuff and it's so much fun.
The first week was all tempis.
And now I'm like, you will do circles and transitions. And you're like, oh man. But I think it's really paying off.
Oh, it definitely is. He's so much more rideable now. I feel like I can ask for anything in that moment and get it well.
Mm-hmm. And not over-facing either of you so that you have like all these small victories in between instead of being like you have to conquer everything in this moment, and if it doesn't happen then you're a failure. It's readapting the goals for that ride based on what's happening. So we've had lessons where you came in and it's like, okay, so we're getting ready for a horse show, so you're going to do the test today, so warm up and let's do the test. And then we start the warm up and it's like, okay, well, this is not going as planned. We're really struggling with, I don't know, the canter. And so we need to then go back and like, you're struggling with the canter to part and he's not going forward enough. So I'm like, okay, well, let's work on transitions. So now we're not even working on the test. We're not even working on canter. We're working on like walk trot transitions to try to get the honesty off the leg aid. And then we get sidebarred into like, okay, today's not the day to work on test riding. Let's just focus on quality of the basics instead. And that's totally okay. It's not even totally okay. It's the best thing that you can do to adapt your plan to what's happening in the moment and be willing to be flexible with your horse. And you're not giving up. It's not like, oh, well, you didn't do the test, so that was a waste of a ride. It's, no, this was the best use of a ride because now when I come back tomorrow, my horse is going to be better in front of my leg and I'll probably be able to do the test because I've done my homework to prepare.
Exactly. It's productive. It's effective. Like going back to just like basic training. Still, obviously, sometimes it feels like, oh, dang, well, I'm going back instead of forward. When you go back to where you were before, it's like, oh my God, this is just so much better. Mm-hmm. It's like that Swiss cheese that you were talking about, or just the improper foundation. When you go back, reassess, reevaluate, okay, what about this here, what about this, that, like a walk to canter depart, right? Where they really have to think about the positioning of their legs and the use of it. Then when you go into the tempis, it's like, oh my God, wait, he understands. I understand. I'm riding it better and he's doing it better. It's going back from something as simple as like a walk to canter depart to then doing changes, and it changes everything for the better.
I was surprised when I moved to Wellington because I thought that I knew how to ride. I still don't know how to ride. I'm still working on it. It gets a little better most days. Some days it gets worse, but generally the trend is this direction. But I thought I was like kind of decent when I was in Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, I thought I was doing great.
And then I moved down here and I got to ride my trainer's schoolmaster. And so I was super excited that I had this amazing opportunity to ride this Grand Prix schoolmaster. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get to do like all these fancy moves, tempi changes and pirouettes and half passes. You know what we did? We worked on trot canter transitions on a 20-meter circle, and I will never forget that. I couldn't steer the darn horse, and it wasn't his fault. It's my fault. Yeah. But like, what do you work on? You just work on the basics, and that's true. It didn't even matter that horse was a schoolmaster. Even with horses that you're preparing for the competition ring that are well-seasoned Grand Prix horses being ridden by professional riders. You don't go and school line after line of tempi changes. You don't go and drill the pirouettes. You work on the basics. And that's like what this is all about. And so a lot of the stuff that I share online and with my clients in person is just good basics that really translates from beginner green horses and riders all the way up to Grand Prix, because we're all doing the same thing. It just becomes a little bit more and more refined as we go along the way.
Yeah.
Well, it's been so fun chatting with you today. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us today. That's it for this episode of The Amateur's Advantage. If you found something helpful, share it with a barn friend, subscribe wherever you listen, and leave a review. It helps more riders to discover the show and join our equestrian community. Don't forget to follow Laura Ashley Dressage on Instagram and other social media channels for more tips, behind-the-scene content, and updates on future episodes. Join us next week as we continue to unpack real-life training challenges, mindset shifts, and how classical dressage principles can help solve problems for riders and horses of all disciplines.